Fond. It's the Fond Pod, the Fond Cast. It's friends occasionally not disagreeing. And this is Cody back with one more of my 60th anniversary James Bond watch along classic or crap series that I've been doing since, man, I feel like it's been since the summer of 23, if that's possible. Just finished up movie number 25 overall. This was Skyfall. This is a popular one by a lot of people. It's a bit of a divisive one as well, but this is a popular one. Tell you what I thought of Skyfall, Daniel Craig's third outing here as James Bond. Halfway through his run, we'll finish up with Spectre, which I just obtained a copy of, and also No Time to Die to finish up, which I still have not seen that movie. So we'll see. And I've only seen Spectre one time, but let's jump into this today. We'll start off with our title and theme again, as we have been doing on these so far. Title of this one, Skyfall, as I understand it, is to refer to James Bond's childhood home, a mansion, which is the setting of the last third of the movie, I would say. It worked for me a little bit. It's also the line that they say to him in his evaluation where he clams up. It's decent. It's simple. Give it a 3 out of 5. Those points could be huge. Your mileage may vary as far as the title on this one, but the points in this one may be huge as we get into classic or crap rating at the end of this. The theme in this one, this is Adele with a beautiful song called Skyfall. I think this is probably a modern classic for a lot of Bond aficionados. She has great pipes. It's a very soothing, moving song. It is, as I criticized it in my ranking the Bond themes episode we did recently, perhaps too simple of a song. And I was surprised in that I rated it lower than I thought I would. But, it's interesting when you look at these one by one versus together. There were songs such as For Your Eyes Only, for example, by Sheena Easton, which I only gave a 6 out of 10 here on the rating of the episodes, or the rating of the movies, but was actually a song that performed very well for me when it came time to rank the Bond episodes against each other. So for all of that, and the fact that I thought this was great, and then I said it wasn't great, and then I re-listened to it here as part of this movie, which I thought it worked pretty well in. 7 out of 10 on this one for Skyfall with Adele. All right. So we're at 10 out of 15 right now, which is about 2/3. Let's talk about the women, the villains, and the portrayal of Bond in this movie. And then let's see where our scores are at that point. There's going to be some categories people probably are not happy with me for on this particular movie. I'll start with the portrayal of Bond because I think Daniel Craig did an absolutely solid job here as somebody who is moving on. He has, at times at odds with MI6 and the British government, but he has a loyalty to his fellow secret agents. He has somewhat of a begrudging loyalty, it seems like, to M as well. And he does a great job on this one again with the physical stuff. The It's weird to say range of emotions because he's a very stone-faced portrayal of Bond, but I do feel like he's a tortured soul in these movies, and we do kind of have hints that there's something bubbling beneath his hard demeanor that'll occasionally rise to the top like a lava flow, but not always. I think he has a wonderful range here as well. Um, like I said, just interactions with other characters in this movie, whether that was Moneypenny or M or Raoul the villain or Camille, I'm sorry, not Camille, Severine. I'm not sure if that's how you say her name or not, but regardless of who he is interacting with, or Albert Finney's character, actually, the caretaker of the Bond Mansion, which we'll talk about later. I think he just does a great job of having a different persona that he's interacting with all of them as a character, which is how a real person is, right? Like we don't react the same way to two different people. We portray ourselves, if you will, differently if you're talking to your mom or your sister or a work employee or whoever. 15 out of 15. Daniel Craig knocks it out of the park again on this one. As far as the Bond women, here we have a bit of a problem. I have used strict and fair and consistent criteria for the Bond women throughout this entire, to this point, 25 movie run. And I will continue to do that in this one because of consistency. Moneypenny in this movie, played by Naomi Harris, is fantastic. I love her character. She's playful, she's smart, she's witty, she's physical. She essentially would be everything I would want in a Bond lady. However, as I have docked in the past, I have to dock again. She is in far less than half the movie. I do think she steals the scenes a little bit where she's there, but for the most part, she's not there. And as wonderful as Miss Harris does portraying that character, as beautiful as I think she is, I have to dock her points from that. So it pains me to say that she will only get an 8 out of 15 on this, and it's purely because she's not in much of the movie. And as a matter of fact, at the end, when they reveal that she is Moneypenny and the new Moneypenny, and likely, therefore, because of all the past movies we've watched, to be behind the desk going forward. Hopefully that's not true because I honestly can't remember Spectre, and as I said, I've never seen the last one, but it would be a loss to the series, I think, if we're going to take her out of the picture. Um, but on the other hand, she does have kind of that sexual tension with Bond that Moneypenny has always has, regardless of which iteration it has been that Moneypenny has been, you know, flirting with Bond in. So 8 out of 15, unfortunately. So we have some highs, we have some lows. Let's go on to the villains in this one. Our villain here is by the name of Raoul Silva, and this is played by Javier Bardem, who does a fantastic job as the villain in this movie. I've seen some websites complain about the villain's motivation, stating like, "Oh, it's just another ex-agent that comes back and tries to hurt MI6 or M or whoever." Yeah, but listen, the concept of having a former ally, former agent who now comes back on your organization for revenge due to a perceived wrongdoing against them is a classic motivation for a character. So even if this has been done several times, he is doing it better than most, if not all. Just a really chilling character that he has here. It's a fun character. He has a little personality to him as well. He is intelligent. He's running a very smart campaign against the world. You could argue, I suppose, that he is capable of doing so much more, but is blinded by his personal grudge against MI6 and M by proxy Bond. But I don't know if that's fair because ultimately that's not what he wants. He knows he can do all that stuff, but what he wants is revenge. He wants to be noticed. He wants to have M pay attention to him and remember who he was and tell him that his life was worth something. At the end, he even offers to die with her. I thought this was a really deep character. So I'm going to give Javier Bardem's Raul Silva a 9 out of 10 on the villains, which is top five. Top five villains, I would say, of the ones we've seen so far. Okay, so we're kind of mixed at this point. It's looking more okay than not okay, but we're really close to that 70% line because that's what I'm cutting off as a reminder here for classic versus crap. So we got to talk about the plot and the action to finish this all up. Let's head over to Wikipedia. We'll take a look at the plot recap of Skyfall, which is probably the most intimate Bond movie in terms of his actual character. Let's take a look at this. In Istanbul, MI6 agents Bond and Moneypenny pursue mercenary Patrice, who has stolen a hard drive containing details of undercover agents. As Bond and Patrice fight atop a moving train, M orders Moneypenny to shoot Patrice despite not having a clear shot. Moneypenny inadvertently hits Bond, who falls into a river. Bond is presumed dead, and Patrice escapes with the hard drive. And I'll also say this intro, which the Bond movies always have a good intro, even the cheesy ones, even the bad ones have had a good intro. They always have an awesome chase scene, some kind of struggle or some kind of fast-moving vehicle that'll lead into those opening credits with a theme. And this one's wonderful when Bond splashes all the way down off the train trestle, essentially into the water. Just as he splashes, that's when Adele's song kicks in, and it's really beautiful. Actually, starts with some imagery of Bond sinking in the visualization. I don't know what you want to call the correct word for that, but when they get artsy with the intro, which he's not typically part of, so it was cool to see that as well. So that's our intro. 3 months later, due to a public inquiry into M's handling of the stolen hard drive, she's pressured to retire by Gareth Mallory, chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament and a former SAS officer. Although she claims she's still useful, MI6's servers are hacked. M receives a taunting computer message moments before MI6 buildings explodes. Bond, who used his presumed death to retire, learns of the attack. He's sitting in a bar and sees it on TV and returns to service in London. He fails a series of physical, medical, and psychological examinations, but M approves him to return to the field, ordering him to identify Patrice's employer, recover the hard drive, and kill Patrice. Now, we should pause there and mention as well, this is another reason why Daniel Craig's earning his 15 out of 15 in this movie. And people can complain about different aspects of this one, but we have not seen a Bond this vulnerable prior to. Emotionally vulnerable, perhaps at the death of his wife in one of the earlier movies, the death of Vesper Lynd in the first two movies here with Daniel Craig, but we haven't seen one as physically drained. He's kind of portrayed as the old man, which I was reading somewhere somebody complained that it was the third movie only with Daniel Craig. If this was his last movie, it would have been better. How much I get, but if you're to believe he's an older agent, here we have a guy who has failed his physical, medical, and psychological examinations. He has shrapnel still in him from when he was shot. He has, shake, a real bad tremor to his hand where he can't hit the target anymore when he holds a gun and therefore can't be trusted to take that pressure shot that he would have taken hundreds of times before. His psyche is broken because he's a broken man compared to how he used to be. He always counted on his strength, I think, to get him through a lot of situations, particularly Daniel Craig's Bond because he's so physical. And we have moments in this movie where he just can't hold on with that arm anymore because he's hurt so badly that he just doesn't have the strength to do that. So there's an ache to this Bond. And I found it really refreshing, honestly, really deep for the character to go on this journey and see if he has it in him to do more of these missions or if this is it, because he could have stayed retired. Okay, back to our summary. He meets Q, MI6's new quartermaster, gives him a radio beacon and the Walther PPK pistol. That's in an art museum. In Shanghai, Bond follows Patrice and witnesses him killing a target. The two fight. Patrice falls to his death before Bond can learn his employer's identity. That's another scene with his bad arm. Moneypenny joins Bond in the investigation and orders from Mallory. Bond finds a casino token that Patrice intended to cash in for the assassination, leading him to a casino in Macau. Their Bond is approached by Severine, Patrice's accomplice. Recognizing her tattoo, he concludes that she was a sex slave rescued by a criminal who now employs her, a man Bond wishes to meet. She warns him that he is targeted by her bodyguards, but promises to help Bond if Bond will kill her employer. Bond fends off the attackers and joins Severine on her yacht, the Chimera. They travel to an abandoned island off the coast of Macau, where the crew captures and delivers them to Severine's employer, Raoul Silva. Once an MI6 agent, Silva turned to cyber terrorism and orchestrated the attack on MI6. Silva kills Severine. It's a nasty little scene where there is a shot glass put on her head. Um, and Silva has Bond try to shoot it off. Bond misses once he finally does take the shot because he's nervous to take the shot with his shaky hand now. Silva just straight up shoots her, and the glass falls, and he counts it as victory. Pretty cold moment. Bond alerts MI6 reinforcements, who then come and capture Silva for rendition to Britain. At MI6's new underground headquarters, Q attempts to decrypt Silva's laptops, but inadvertently gives it access to the MI6 servers, allowing Silva to escape. Q concludes Silva wanted to be captured as part of a plan to kill M, whom he hates for disavowing and betraying him to the Chinese government during the handover of Hong Kong in 1997, leaving him to be tortured and disfigured by a suicide attempt by a cyanide pill. He takes his basically his top row of teeth out and his cheek gets all nasty and he's all deformed because he lived through the cyanide attempt that he had used on mission before. Silva escapes the cell and Bond chases him through the London Underground, thwarts Silva's attack at the Parliament inquiry where M is present, instructing Q and Bill Tanner to leave an electronic trail for Silva to follow. Bond uses his Aston Martin DB5 to take M to Skyfall, his childhood home in the Scottish Highlands. So they actually leave a breadcrumb trail for Silva to follow, so that even though Bond and M are going off grid, they can be found. Here we meet Skyfall's gamekeeper, Kincaid. Together, the trio set up a series of booby traps, Home Alone style. Well, maybe not quite. Throughout the house, when Silva's men arrive, Bond, M, and Kincaid kill most of them, but M is wounded. Silva arrives by helicopter with more men and heavy weapons, so Bond sends M and Kincaid through a priest hole to hide in a nearby chapel, and rigs propane tanks to explode. As the house and the helicopter are destroyed, Bond escapes down the same tunnel. Silva survives the destruction of the house, following Kincaid and M to the chapel. Confronting M, Silva forces his gun into her hand and presses his temple to hers, begging her to kill them both. Bond arrives and kills Silva by throwing a knife into his back. Then succumbs to her wounds and dies in Bond's arms. Following M's funeral, Moneypenny formally introduces herself to Bond and tells him she is retiring from fieldwork to become secretary for Mallory, the newly appointed M. Bond meets with Mallory and tells him he is ready to get back to work. So M is out, dies a hero's death here, and we have Mallory now, which of course is also an M. That's going to be leading MI6 from this point forward. So I thought it was wonderful. The plot in this movie, wonderful. Skyfall touches on Bond in ways that we haven't seen before, the character of Bond, and I just think that's fantastic. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to redo a ranking right here as I record this, and it's going to have big implications as well. I give the plot in this movie, all the things I just mentioned, an 28 out of 30. This is the highest plot score we've had in any of the Bond movies, beating Casino Royale by 1 point. From Russia with Love with a couple points up there as well. But the plot in this is just fantastic. In many ways, we could say that Bond is a two-dimensional character, but this shows more layers to Bond than we have seen in any movie previously. The relationship with M and her being an actual viable character in the field on this one is something not really explored in any of the previous movies. It's very intimate, this revenge story and the return to the roots and the concept of where did we come from and where are we going and who are we now? I think these are all really deep questions that this movie does explore. So 28 out of 30 on the plot on this is just fantastic. I guess I don't know what more I would want, honestly, to get the 29 and 30 points. But I'm going to go with 28 right now because I do feel like there must be something in there they could have squeezed a little bit more. Maybe that's more with Moneypenny, or maybe it's more with Raoul. I don't know, but it's great. Brings us to the action in this one, and the scene at the house with the bombs and the shooting and the helicopter coming into attack, and we have chase scenes through cities. We had the train scene at the beginning with the sniping that was taking place. I mean, Bond does some pretty quick close combat fighting in this movie, I will say as well, taking out guards and trying to disable certain guards' guns versus other things of that nature. I mean, it's fantastic all the way through. Daniel Craig's just super good at action. He lost points on Casino Royale because so much of it is the card game itself, but 15 out of 15. That's right. 15 out of 15 on the action here. Wow. This movie is pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. All right, as far as the favorite quote in this movie, I didn't have one necessarily picked out. Um, as much as the movie was great, I think maybe it's possible I was actually just too into it and just did not pick out a favorite quote. There's some good ones in here. Silva talks about this long metaphor of he and Bond being the last two rats, and after Bond kills him, he says "last rat standing." That was that was something, but honestly, just due to the sentiments, I'm probably going to pick the very end of the film when M has passed and has left something for Bond, and you kind of knew what it was going to be. But Moneypenny gives Bond a box, and he opens it up, and it's the porcelain bulldog that he hated that used to sit on Judi Dench's desk. And Eve says, I think she was encouraging you to take a desk job. And Bond says, just the opposite. He's going to go out and he's going to continue to fight the good fight and be in the field. I also did enjoy when Q said, "What were you expecting? An exploding pen? We don't really win for that anymore." So lots of good quotes here, all over in Skyfall. All right, adding up. Here we go. Let's see. I just changed the score, so we're going to recheck this on the air here. We have 15 and 28 is 43, and 9 is 52, and 8 is 60. We have 15 is 75, and 7 is 82, and 3 is 85 points. Yes, it's true, ladies and gents. With only 3 movies left, counting this one, Skyfall has taken the lead as my top rated James Bond movie. Quite, quite a recovery after the Quantum of Solace debacle in the last movie with the 66. 29-point score increase. Whoa. Now, I've heard the next one, Spectre, is kind of mixed as well. Probably, maybe not so great. So we'll definitely take a look at that one. Um, Ideally here before I go back to school when my vacation's over. And then I got to watch the last one, No Time to Die, which I will say I actually, you think I would know this, but I actually don't know if Bond dies in that movie or not. No one has spoiled that for me, and I appreciate that no one has spoiled that for me, unless it doesn't happen, because I genuinely don't know. So, all right, that's it, everybody. This has been our, what, third to last episode of James Bond's 60th anniversary series, Classic or Crap. Tonight, Classic! Good job, Skyfall. This has been Cody. This has been the Fawn Pod. Friends occasionally not disagreeing. We'll see you all soon with some most anticipated lists coming up. It's that time of the year. January, we like to give you our most anticipated movies and video games. They're coming up soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye.